Title of the first section is Using the Quadratic Formula. For ax squared plus bx plus c. The definition or equation for this problem, the quadratic formula, is x equals negative b plus or minus, which again means positive or negative, the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2a. To solve a quadratic equation, or an equation with an x squared, we can use the three numbers a, b, and c, plugging it into the quadratic formula to get our answer. The first question we'll look at is x squared minus 2x minus 8 equals 0. Again, a is the first number, the number in front of x squared. If there's no number there, we can put a 1. B is the middle number, or the number in front of x. It does have a minus sign or negative sign, so it's a negative 2. And the last number, c, is negative 8. The equations always have to be equal to 0. If it's not equal to 0, you have to move all the other numbers over before you do a, b, and c. Solving the question, negative b would be negative 2, plus or minus b squared. B is negative 2 to the second power, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 8, divided by 2 times a, which is 1. So taking the three numbers, we can plug it into the equation and then solve from there. A minus minus 2 would be a positive 2, plus or minus negative 2 squared. Negative 2 times negative 2 would be positive 4. Negative 4 times 1 would be negative 4. And negative 4 times negative 8 would be positive 32. Divided by 2 times 1, which would be 2. Solving again, we'd have 2 plus or minus 4 plus 32 is 36, divided by 2. 2 plus or minus the square root or radical 36 would be 6, since 6 times 6 is 36, divided by 2. Solving from here, the plus or minus sign means we'll have 2 plus 6 and also 2 minus 6. If we do the first answer as 2 plus 6 divided by 2, 2 plus 6 would be 8. 8 divided by 2 would be 4. So our first answer would be x equals 4. And our second answer, we can do 2 minus 6 divided by 2, which would be negative 4 divided by 2, which would be negative 2. So we'll have two answers, x equals positive 4 and x equals negative 2. Second question, and last question for this section, will be 2x squared minus 5x minus 3 equals 0. Again, the three numbers we'll use: a, the number in front of x squared; b, the middle number in front of x; and c, the last number. And make sure to include any minus signs or negative signs with the numbers. And also the equation always has to equal 0. If it doesn't equal 0, you have to make it equal to 0 first. The equation again, x equals negative b. So we have a negative from the equation and a negative from the negative 5. Plus or minus b squared which would be negative 5 squared, minus 4 times a times c, divided by 2 times a. So the first step again, take a, b, and c, plug them in the right spots in the quadratic formula, and last step we solve. Minus 5 again would be positive 5, plus or minus the square root, negative 5 squared would be 25, negative 4 times 2 would be negative 8, and negative 8 times a negative 3 would be positive 24, divided by 2 times 2, which would be 4. 5 plus or minus 25 plus 24 would be 49, divided by 4. 5 plus or minus the square root of 49 would be 7, since 7 times 7 is 49, divided by 4. And again, there are two answers. We can do 5 plus 7 divided by 4, which will be 12 divided by 4, which equals 3. And our second answer, we'll do 5 minus 7 divided by 4. 5 minus 7 would be negative 2. Negative 2 over 4, if you reduce, would be negative 1/2. Class section today is titled More Quadratic Formula Questions. First question, and only question for this section, is 2x squared plus 4x equals 7. Again, we can use the quadratic formula for any question that we have x squared. Keep in mind though that the equation always has to equal 0. If it's equal to a different number like 7, before we do the quadratic formula, we can cancel that out by subtracting 7 on both sides. So we'll have 2x squared plus 4x minus 7 and equals 0. And now the equation's in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. A again is the first number, b is the second number in front of x, and c is the last number without a variable. Plugging the numbers into the equation, we'll have x equals negative b, which would be negative 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 4 squared, minus 4 times a times c, divided by 2 times a, which would be 2 times 2. X equals negative 4, which stay the same. The square root, 4 squared would be 16. Negative 4 times 2 would be negative 8. And negative 8 times negative 7 would be a positive 56. Divided by 2 times 2, which would be 4. X equals negative 4 plus or minus 16 plus 56 would be 72 divided by 4. To do the square root of 72, that's what we did in the previous chapter. You can do a factor tree for. 72 is 9 times 8. 9 would be 3 times 3. 8. We can do 4 times 2. And 4, we can do 2 times 2. If you remember, we circled the pairs. We have a pair of 3's and a pair of 2's. So x equals, -4 comes down, plus or minus the square root of 72. We have a pair of 3's and a pair of 2's, which we can multiply to get 6. And the number inside the radical was a number that we did not factor and did not circle, which would be 2, divided by 4. For our final answer, we can't add or subtract a square root to a number, but what we can do is reduce fractions. Each of these 3 numbers outside the square root can be divided by 2. So -4 divided by 2 would be -2. 6 divided by 2 would be 3. The number inside the square root stays the same, and 4 divided by 2 would be 2. So our final answer in radical form would be -2 plus or minus 3 square root 2 divided by 2.